Okay, today's video, it's very simple. What we have are a select few designer fragrances that are so good that even niche connoisseurs would have to agree. At least hypothetically, you know, this is just all in theory here. This is in my opinion. I would think that for a lot of these, if you were to bottle them into a niche bottle and a niche brand and then charge $400 for it, I think they could get away with it and I think people would sing their praises. But because these are designer fragrances at designer prices, they still are going to get hate from people who like the best of the best. You know, when I have niche, I have designer, I have cheapies, I have clones, you know, I have a bit of everything. And I'm here to tell you that spending $400, $500 plus on a bottle doesn't really make it feel any better. And it really doesn't have a huge discernible difference in terms of $100 versus $500 in terms of smell, quality, smell, even presentation. You're not extracting that much of a difference. It is solely the name that you're paying for. So how's that for some controversy to start the day off? But let's get things kicked off with Hugo Boss bottled Absolute. Right now about $94. Retail is somewhere north of $140. It actually might be $145, something like that. So already great savings, you know, at $94, $95. And I think that price will continue to come down a bit more as time goes on. This is still pretty popular and it's still somewhat new. This one's got incense, patchouli, myrrh, cedarwood, and leather. What a fantastic note breakdown. But the question becomes, does it hold true to that note breakdown? You know, does it really utilize those notes? And it does. And that is what's amazing about this stuff, because all of those working together create something that is truly amazing smelling. It's smoky, it's rich, it's inviting. It has this kind of mysterious quality about it where, you know, it kind of makes you think. It has this kind of mysterious type of smell about it as well that I think a lot of people would gravitate towards. And, you know, you walk by wearing this, it's going to be one that kind of turns heads, you know, and people are going to be wondering, what is that exactly? Because it's not an Acqua di Gio, it's not a Eau de Parfum, it's not, you know, your usual trendy style of men's scent. Yes, it is a bit sweet, but it doesn't have that bubblegummy sweetness or that chestnut-based sweetness that we're used to these days. This one is truly going against the grain, 100%. It's very different than all of the other new releases, and this is still a new release. I mean, it came out last year, so you know, that's new still. And it stands out in so many ways. And I think that, again, if you were to take this and kind of bottle it into a more high-end line and charge more for it, it could 1000% fetch that price. You know how obviously Dior, Chanel, YSL, basically all of the major designer brands, they have their more premium line, you know, Tom Ford Private Blend, things like that, YSL Tuxedo in that lineup. I don't know, I think Hugo Boss might have that, maybe. I don't know if they're quite as premium, but what I'm getting at is if they were to have that and they took this and they put it into that premium line and they charged you $350 retail, I still think it would go for it. I still think it would be worth it. It's just that good, that impressive. This next one from YSL, like we were just talking about, is a fantastic scent that is not in their exclusive lineup. This one is in their regular L'Homme line. And usually you're paying about, I don't know, $90 to maybe $100 for this one. At discounters, 100 ml. It is L'Homme Eau de Parfum. This one's got cognac, bitter orange, some lavender, and some nice oak in here. It took them a while to put this out. You know, the original L'Homme dates all the way back to, I think, somewhere around like 2006. Could be wrong, somewhere within that vicinity, you know, mid-2000s, maybe early 2000s, somewhere around in there. Been around for a long time. They have released so many flankers over the years, and it took them, I mean, over 10 years to finally release a standard Eau de Parfum flanker, you know, and that's what this is. It's not L'Homme Le Parfum, it's not any other variant, it's just L'Homme EDP. You would think that that would come right after the original, but remember, that was released back when pumping out flankers every year wasn't nearly as common, if not not being done at all. And so what this one ultimately has, and why I like it so much, is it is, in my opinion, true, proper, well done eau de parfum flanker, being it still ties back heavily to the original L'Homme, but it is a bit sweeter, it is a bit more rich, it does have more depth and complexity behind it. That's what this one is. So you still get that kind of ginger, fresh apple type of mature gentleman smell, but with more of a woodiness and just more of a heaviness overall. I find it to be probably more of a nighttime variant. You might look at the original L'Homme as being like a daytime workwear type of scent, you know, just for running errands and stuff. This one's gonna be more evening out type of thing. And again, this is one where it smells unique enough and different enough and just refined enough to where if they put this into the YSL exclusive line or whatever, and charged a lot more for it, I still think it would hold up at that price point. 100%. The stuff is great. Next up, we've got a fragrance from LAIK. You don't really see a ton from this brand, you know. I mean, they've got a few Ancre Noirs that got pretty popular for a while, several years back, just because they were cheap. I mean, $20 to $30 or so, typically on discounters, was the going rate for those, and great fragrances for the price. Focused heavily on vetiver. They're woody, they're clean, they're easy to wear. Not much to dislike, really. But this one is one that is a lot more unique, and for a while, I think, was discontinued and basically impossible to get. But then recently, well, maybe a couple years ago, recently, it came back in stock, and it has been ever since. It's Ombre Noir. This one's got cognac, fig, tobacco, and cinnamon. You know, I've been pretty vocal about the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of fig in fragrances. Fig and coconut are a couple that I usually am a bit picky with. However, when it is done right, and that is, of course, subjective to me, what is right, which is basically when there's enough surrounding fig or coconut to where there's something to balance it out, then I'm okay with it. But I don't like fig-based fragrances. I don't really necessarily like coconut-based fragrances unless it's done in a way where I like it, where there's enough balance. And with this one here, with that fig note, there is enough balance from that cinnamon, from that tobacco. It's, of course, warm and spicy, sweet, and kind of smoky as well. And the fig, it's kind of an interesting choice paired with all those other heavier, sweeter notes, because generally that's kind of more of like a summery, watery type of smell, but it's in here and it works surprisingly well. Of course, has a bit of a boozy kind of alcohol kick as well from the cognac in here, kind of a sweeter alcohol accord versus a whiskey being, you know, brighter and everything like that, just kind of sweeter, warm, spicy, almost like a spiced rum type of smell. And honestly, I think the fig kind of makes this scent, you know, which is kind of saying something coming from me, but it's a really unique blend that probably not everybody would think of. And when you look at it, you might feel like it's out of place and it wouldn't smell right, but it does. This is incredibly unique. There is not anything else out there that smells like this, at least that I've seen. So I think that's saying something. What are you paying for this one? Generally, probably $60, $70, maybe a bit more. I'm not really sure where it's at right now. It's 100 ml eau de parfum, and it's, again, very unique, decent performer. And if this was going for $250, $300 plus, it is by far unique enough to 100% warrant that price. And I say that, you know, lightly. Is anything worth that price? I don't know, but it has the uniqueness behind it enough to where it could be going for that price. Let's go for Zenya Forte up next. You don't really hear about this brand at all either, like ever. But this is one that I really enjoy. This one's got tobacco, honey, and tonka bean. Tobacco, honey, they go together great, you know, just like bread and butter. And then, of course, tonka bean is almost always going to be following suit when you have notes like that. And just generally in sweeter fragrances, you're going to see tonka bean, whether they list it off or not. Now, this one, while it does have those notes, it actually has a nice bit of freshness too. I mean, when you smell that one, there's kind of a musky, clean woodiness, and then as it starts to settle on down, then you start picking up on some of those sweeter, richer, stronger notes, which kind of takes you on a little bit of an interesting ride. It's almost kind of confusing when you first spray this one on, but as it settles in, you'll kind of see where this one's headed. It kind of has more of a dusty and powdery take on that tobacco honey. Instead of being like syrupy sweet, it's more powdery and kind of textured in that way. And I think that's a welcomed difference because a lot of times fragrances with this note breakdown can be a bit too sweet for some. Okay, this next one is Dior Intense. You know, in another past time, this would have been Dior Homme Parfum 2014/2020, which they smell the same, just a difference in bottle size. But that's what I would have chose. However, obviously, Dior Homme Parfum, that version has been discontinued, and now we're left with the 2025, which is not a fit for this video at all. It does not smell niche. It's not that it's a horrible scent, it's not a fit. Dior Homme Parfum, 1000% could have been niche. It was already about to the niche price of $200 on discounters for 100 ml, and it was still flying off the shelves. They could have charged even more for it in a niche line and continued to sell them. That's how good it was. That iris, the leather rose combination, it just worked. And I honestly, crazy enough, I kind of looking at the past trends, I think we'll get a Dior Homme Parfum original or something, you know, whether they call it that or not, whether they, you know, try to make it obvious or not. I don't think that was 100% the nail in the coffin for that, you know, DH 2025. I think given the fact that they did that with Dior Homme Original, which was nowhere near as popular as Dior Homme Parfum, I think that'll happen at some point. Who knows? But I digress. Dior Homme Intense, honestly, still could just about pass as niche. Now, maybe not, you know, $350, $400 niche, although it still would sell, I'm sure, but maybe, you know, $200 niche or something. You know, maybe like a step above Mancera pricing type of niche. I think it 1000% could go for that. It's got the quality, has the performance, it has the uniqueness. It's for some going to be hard to be categorized as unique now because there are so many things that smell similar to it. But at one point, this was standalone before it was cloned and copied a bunch of times. So you kind of have to look at it from that approach. Same thing with Creed Aventus. There was a point where that one was unique because that was the only thing out. It's been cloned hundreds of times now, and you're kind of hesitant to call it unique, but Aventus is still what started that smell. So you got to give credit where credit's due. And essentially that's Dior Homme Intense. We have a few others, Gentleman EDP, Uomo Intense by Valentino, but this is kind of where that sweeter iris, kind of makeup bag, lipstick, powdery iris really got its start and really started snowball. We're gonna finish this video off with Terre d'Hermès Eau Intense Vetiver. So, you know, the original already has vetiver. They basically all have vetiver. They have it. But this is just more vetiver, I guess. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. That's how it smells. And so there you go. This one's got bergamot, pepper, and of course, vetiver. Interestingly enough, none of that bitter orange, which is kind of what makes Terre d'Hermès what it is, that bitter orange mixed with the woods. Instead, generalized citrus, I think, is what they list off here. So you could kind of use your imagination there. There's still some orange, okay? I still pick up on it. They just don't list it. I think they needed to change the note breakdown somehow because it's Eau Intense vetiver and the others have vetiver, the others have orange. This has vetiver, this has orange. People are gonna be like, what's the difference? Well, it's a stronger vetiver, but they still had to make it look different on paper. At least that's my take on it. But man, it does smell fantastic and it is a true vetiver scent. You know what? In some way, it's kind of like an earthy Tom Ford gray vetiver. Simple as that, you know. Gray vetiver is a relatively clean, soapy vetiver, and you have that similar type of vetiver, to keep using that word vetiver. But this one has more of a peppery spiciness and more of an earthiness to it. So again, earthy gray vetiver. Maybe that'll make it easy for you to understand kind of where this one sits. So that's kind of what I think. Sounds simple, you know, but there are so many vetiver-based niche fragrances. Roja vetiver, Creed Original vetiver, and just so many more beyond that. This one 100% could be in that league, you know. charge more for it in a fancier bottle and presentation with a fancier name, and boom, it'll be selling for $300. That's how good it is. Alrighty guys, that's gonna do it for me. I will drop links to these down below if any of these piqued your interest. Also, I've got a mailing list you could sign up to. Very important. It's completely free to sign up. That will also be linked down below. And within that, whenever something rare, discontinued, or hard to find comes into stock, I send you an email notifying you of it with a link to purchase. So today, Dolce & Gabbana, the One Gentleman, 100 ml for $100 came in stock. That's a discontinued one that's been discontinued for a long time. That's a great price. We've had a few rare light blues pop up. We've had YSL YO Fresh pop up, and so many more, along with random flash sales and stuff that you don't want to miss. So again, completely free. Enter your email, click the link down below, and we'll see you in there. You're going to save a lot of money and get a lot of really cool fragrances without completely breaking the bank, because if they're charging, you know, a ridiculous price for it, I don't promote it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.